My name is Henrik Örnebring. I'm professor of media and communication at Karlstad University, where I also lead the research center NODE, the Under Center for Research on News and Opinion in the Digital Era. I am studying the local news ecology in my hometown, in Karlstad. There's been a number of studies of news ecology, which is like how different news actors, legacy media and alternative media, provide news and how people take part of news in a specific geographic area. But I thought it was interesting that most of the studies done have been done in major US metropolitan areas, so like Chicago, San Francisco, Baltimore, those kind of places. So I was interested in, do the ideas expressed in this research perspective scale down to like a Swedish small town? Does it work to apply a news ecology perspective when you go outside the US and go somewhere that's much smaller? To some extent it does scale down, because some concerns like the diminishing resources of traditional media organizations are pretty much the same everywhere in the Western world, and Karlstad is no exception. You see a consolidation, for example, where there is local concentration, where one company now owns the sort of two major newspapers, for example. So that sort of holds true, like the sort of importance, but also the importance of legacy media, the consolidation of legacy media, and also sort of slightly the weakening of legacy media. That works, but I've also found that in these studies of like San Francisco, Chicago, people talk a lot about hyperlocal news bloggers, all the alternative media, and sort of as I suspected, if you look at a small Swedish town, there's nothing, like literally nothing. There are some like Facebook groups and stuff. So this kind of lively online participatory sphere that's sort of observed by some scholars and predicted by some other research that just doesn't exist. It just isn't there. And what you see instead, what fills the niche in Karlstad and also in other towns of comparable size in Sweden, is local government. Local municipal government is increasingly becoming its own news producer, employing journalists, ex-journalists to sort of do more and better press releases, communicate directly with citizens on social media, which on the one hand, it's of course great because they do push out a lot of like socially relevant information, but on the other hand, like what's going away is like investigative journalism, watchdog journalism. They're not, the local municipality is not going to employ an investigative journalist to investigate themselves. I was very interested to see that there are a couple of people here presenting research on out-of-work journalists and journalists who have lost their jobs. And I'm actually now working with a colleague who's a geographer, a human geographer, with very sort of different perspectives on the media. And we're also interviewing journalists who have lost their jobs, but in the local setting, to investigate issues of professional identity, but also how professional identity interacts with place identity, which we think is very exciting. It's going to run for a couple of years. It's part of our new strong research environment, GeoMedia, at Karlstad University, where media scholars work together with geographers to sort of examine contemporary media issues. We're going to present some of the preliminary results of that project at the Future of Journalism conference in Cardiff in about a month.